Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over what is happening today in a day where honestly not that much actually happened, but regardless, there are still some new things to update on, and I'll give you my thoughts moving into the rest of the week. Of course, don't forget the market is closed on Friday. It is a shorter week, and also I will not be uploading on Thursday as I will not be home on Thursday. I'll be going out for a small vacation for the weekend. So FYI, no videos on Thursday. I'll upload them on Sunday instead. But yeah, let's jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. Not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc. Well, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is open, as the market is trading, for just $3 a month. Again, if you want to join, the link is down below in the description. We'd love to have you there. Constant updates every single day, even on more slower days like today. For instance, they can talk about this little wedge that we broke out of, which I'll talk about on the video right now. So again, link below. $3 a month or $5 gives you access to the second tier, which also includes NVDA. But Tesla closing the day up 0.7%, closing at $254 per share, which compared to the market is slight outperformance, but nothing too crazy. So what does this all mean moving forward? So Tesla, for the most part, had a nice little, a red day, and then or red open, I should say, then it had a nice little bounce up, and then it pretty much consolidated into this tight little wedge towards the end of the day. And then you can see in the last, hour or so, we'll say, it kind of had that little breakout, retest, and then a continuation. So far, so good. Now, the first level I can see Tesla moving to, potentially even as early as tomorrow morning with a gap up, is about this 255-ish level. The question is, of course, do we get anything more than that? And that's going to be, I mean, there's no, should take a hair in my mouth. There's no easy answer to that. But, the thing you have to consider, and what I sometimes take into account in these specific scenarios on, a very pretty slow week and a short week, is max pain. Max pain for Tesla right now is sitting at $255, where essentially most of, where the vast majority of options will experience the most amount of pain. In other words, most lose essentially, if you will, from bought options. Sitting at 255, Tesla is just hovering around 255 this whole time, right? So, it wouldn't surprise me if Tesla, still has some volatile movements, still kind of does like these, intraday movements, but ultimately, if you draw a line on 255, which is like right around here, what the hell is that? Right around here, we'll say, right? It wouldn't surprise me if it kind of just dances, around the 255-ish range, maybe by like $5 or so above and below, right? And ultimately ends pretty damn close to it on Thursday, since Thursday is the last day. So that's going to be the main thing I'll be looking for on Tesla stock, right? So despite, this movement, despite potential move up, gap up to 255, blah, 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 right? All these things, which were honestly already pretty much there, honestly. It's hard to say there'll be too much more after this small, because again, this is a 15-minute break, a falling wedge. It's not a very large falling wedge, but it is a falling wedge nonetheless that we did officially break out of, which is good, but I can't imagine it leading to anything crazy. Now, if things do lead into something a little bit more crazy, right? If this does go into something a little bit more worthwhile, because you can argue the fact that on the 15-minute chart as well, we did actually break out of this longer, bigger version of the trend line, which you can see we had a breakout this morning. Then we've been kind of hugging it, which also created that falling wedge. And then we had that continuation. So far, so good. Now, if things really want to get interesting, and if Tesla really wants to move higher, even as early as tomorrow, let's say, or maybe by Thursday, that would, to me, require at the very least a break of this high right here, which is sitting at about 258, like the high 258s, like closer to 259, honestly, which can lead it to 262, which is this pivot point up here. And a break above that can take it to the fair value gap sitting right around here, closer to the 270s, right? Which then, of course, also lines up with this more kind of 1 hour perspective I have over here, which is the top of the trend line, which is also sitting closer to that 270-ish region if it happens pretty quickly. I don't think this will happen pretty quickly. Again, with max pain sitting at 255, I personally believe that, we're probably not going to get a substantial move to the upside. I think that the best case scenario right now is we'll see the low 260s and then most likely get a rejection from there and then make our way back down and then, start again getting that magnetizing effect, if you will, closer to that 255-ish range for that max pain zone that's expiring on Thursday. So that's probably the main thing I'll be looking at moving forward on Tesla stock. The daily chart, another inside day being printed today. So there is a lot of congestion, if you will, building up on the stock over here, right? The last 4 days, arguably, where we've just been sort of getting tighter and tighter and tighter for the most part. So that's something to consider. Obviously, this will eventually break, but there is the chance that this waits until earnings. That is a possibility where we kind of just, for the most part, again, with the max pain plus earnings next week, Tuesday, which is not that far away, especially considering Thursday is the last day of the week, that we more or less wait up until earnings to get any actual true meaningful move, which at that point, if we actually get, this tight into earnings, most likely the move on earnings should be pretty explosive to the upside or to the downside. So that's kind of the main thing I'll be looking at right now, right? There's really not that much more to update as it stands right this very moment. The weekly, still kind of the same idea, right? Now, a lot of people might look at the weekly here and they'd be like, well, this just looks like a very classic bear flag. I mean, this just looks like a bear flag, right? I mean, there's no way this is not a bear flag. But you have to remember, I said this before, I even said this when we were up here, Tesla loves taking these kind of very obvious patterns and doing the exact opposite. This example up here, perfect. Right? You can have easily argued this was a very easy looking bull flag, right? Pennant, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Bullish pattern, right? And then it obviously, didn't really work out to the bull's favor. And this is not the first time it does this, right? The stock loves to do these things, right? You can make an argument. This right here was a nice little bullish pattern right here to the downside. You can argue that this massive move up was a bit of a bullish pattern to the downside, right? You can argue that this move down here was a bit of a, little bit of a bear flag to the upside. So you have to understand that this stock does pretty often, honestly, like to do these kind of situations where it just looks like a very obvious bullish or bearish pattern, but it does the opposite. Same idea over here. Look at this nice little, beautiful move up. Looks like a very obvious bull flag, and then we went down. So the stock likes to do these things, right? Very much likes to do these things, likes to make these kind of situations look as though they're supposed to play out, in this case, the one we're currently in bearish fashion, but just to instead ultimately actually go to the upside. So just keep that in mind. The stock likes to do these kind of things. Whether or not this will be one of those cases, obviously nobody knows, but just more from the behavior of the stock, just keep that in mind. I think it's an important concept to not fully disregard entirely. But the last thing I'll talk about is going to be, of course, on this 1 hour time frame, the overall main levels. I know we're getting tightness and it's, kind of boring price action within this zone over here overall. But to me, still the most important levels overall remain to be the same levels I mentioned before, but just to reiterate in case you haven't seen them or heard them or forgot about them, right? The upside on the 1 hour chart, the very main level I'll be looking for is, again, pretty much about that 270-ish region right around here. Break above that, we most likely make our way to about that 290-ish region where we got rejected several times over here, which also coincides with the daily trend line up here, right? So 290 will be very crucial. If we break 290, I do believe Tesla should make its way into the mid 300s. However, on the flip side, if we lose 240, which is the level that, we bounced off of several times over here, that could be a little bit concerning, right? I mean, even just 250 could be bad, but 240, in my opinion, is a bit more important based on the recent price action. So losing 240 will most likely mean that we head down to the bottom end of this instead, closer to this trend line down here, which, will happen to be closer to about 230 itself. If we lose 230, then similar to up here with the 290s, we'll come down to the bottom range instead. That has held us very nicely so far, which is about 220 to 215. But if we lose 220, 215, we most likely make our way well below that. And, seeing sub 200 actually becomes a real possibility. And, unfortunately, I don't think we'll find that answer until earnings. But, it is what it is. So that's probably the main thing I'll be looking at. Very quickly, taking a quick look at options flow, seeing if there's anything worthy of mentioning. Options have been pretty muted, in my opinion, not super duper active, I would say. Some calls coming in for next week, the 25th of this month, of course, for 275 strike. So someone's clearly bullish on earnings, or at the very least a run up into earnings potentially. So let's see how that plays out. But yeah, nothing really stands out other than that. So someone wants to run up into earnings or even post earnings move, but let's see if that's the case or not. And then Tesla, unfortunately, is sitting at 30 million confirmed bearish flow. So yeah, not much more to update. Pretty simple stuff, but hopefully useful nonetheless. So if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.